Hello, everyone. Welcome. We come to you live, actually, for this webcast from my basement and my colleague's or office, I should say. We are doing our best to bring to you as updated content as we possibly can. That's what we continue to strive to do, and we felt the easiest way to do that in this case would be as interactive as possible with you guys, with our viewers. So we have a lot of information compiled for you. We have a lot of questions that what we've done is just basically compiled from our customers over the last few quarters and tried to address each of these issues, or questions, I should say, concerns. And so we're going to do that. However, we have a really cool opportunity. This is the first webcast of many that I've done where I'm actually going to be able to respond to you guys live. So we really encourage, as we go through some of this content, any questions at all that come up concerning Azure or otherwise that you think it's something that Jason and I could answer, please do so. We're going to try to interject them as often as we can as we go through our presentation. So without further ado, I want to officially introduce my colleague, my partner in crime here, who comes to us with a lengthy background and experience in these categories. He and I have been able to collaborate quite a lot, especially in the last few months or weeks, since we've all been quarantined, and discuss our efforts, our cloud efforts. And I'm very, very pleased to finally introduce him in a Solutions Lab video. And that is my friend and colleague, Jason Lambert. Hello, sir. Take a bow.
Hey, thanks, Matt. Greatly appreciate the introduction. And just for everybody that's watching, by chance, if you were logged in prior to Matt's official kickoff of the presentation, you're not seeing the slides, please be sure to just refresh your screen and those slides will show up. We had a little bit of a technical glitch before we got going. Super thrilled to be here. Super thrilled to be part of the D&H team around cloud solutions. I come with, I'll put my slide up here. I come with a great deal of experience. I've been around the infrastructure business for going on 8 or 9 years now, and I've had the awesome opportunity of being able to work with Microsoft Azure as well as AWS and actually a lot of other providers, and to be able to bring that experience here to D&H is just a great opportunity. And being able to work with Matt, I can agree to his commentary. We do collaborate very, very well, and I say between the two of us, I think we have almost 50 years experience or so to be able to share with you. So I'm going to flip it back to Matt for his intro.
Great. Well, thank you. Most of you, if you're frequent Solutions Lab viewers, you're familiar with who I am, Matt Allison, and I've been with D&H for what feels like my entire life. I'm 18 years this year, and I'm thrilled to be able to come to you guys live today. Today we're going to go over quite a few things, so we have enough to fill this out. But again, if we're not covering something, we want you guys to reach out and ask questions. So to be clear, what we're here to talk about is going to be infrastructure as a service and Azure, but we're going to come at it from different angles, because this isn't just a technical video. We will also want to discuss what it's like to begin to have that solution conversation with your customer. What makes it different from the conversations that you guys are used to having with your customer? What it means to complete an assessment, what tools are available to you in order to complete these assessments, and then take those assessments, interpret it, and come up with an Azure solution. And when I say Azure solution, I'm often referring to, back-end systems that you're hosting in Azure, infrastructure. But it can expand outside of that. That's one of the beauties of using Azure for your infrastructure as a service, as opposed to their competitors, is there is a tremendous amount of interconnection between those services than everything else that we're using today, whether those be on-prem Windows servers or other Windows application servers, or their other cloud solutions like Microsoft 365, which we'll talk about later as well. So I don't know if yep, you got that there. Okay. So let me start off by throwing out a poll question. If you don't mind, Jason, I'm going to jump ahead because I want to get this out of the way. Oh, I'm sorry, everybody. That looks like that is the wrong question. Live. All right. I'm sorry. I don't know which one it is.
Well, yeah.
Have you written your plan? Okay, yeah. So I apologize. It's this poll question. The reason I wanted to start with this, the reason I wanted to get this out here and get everyone's feedback is because obviously, depending on our audience and depending on the questions that we cover, we might want to be a little. We might want to cover some topics more than others. So we wanted to understand from your perspective today. Do you have a cloud business practice? And have you developed a cloud plan surrounding it? Have you been more reactionary? We want to know that. And so generally speaking, have you written a plan to build your cloud business in 2020? Yes or no with some clarification, just so we can get a better idea of who our audience is. Okay. So while those polling questions or answers come in, let's move back over to the actual meat of our presentation. Okay, so Jason, we are here to discuss setting up an IaaS solution, but it starts with the IaaS sales method. This is something, just simply the IT sales method or traditional IT sales method is clearly something that our customers are familiar with, how they can address their customers with this new technology. Can you provide any insight in terms of the approach, comparing a traditional IT sales approach to something where we're talking infrastructure as a service? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. Yeah. So for the number of years, I mean, again, I've been doing in and around this business for approximately 9 years now. And I've seen a lot of partners, and I've worked with a lot of partners, some who have had other different challenges or opportunities. And I would say the biggest differentiator is in the hardware business, when you're delivering services to a customer, you're thinking about where the customer's going and how they're growing, and you're looking at the longer term for their IT asset purchases. And so when you're talking with the customer, you're asking them about budgets and really trying to understand what their business is about. And and as that business continues to grow and you have that relationship with the customer, I would say a lot of the time your engagement is probably primarily around IT people, maybe the IT manager or systems engineers, people that are actually deploying physical hardware infrastructure. I would also suspect that you're dealing with buyers, and people that are making decisions around cutting POs and sending in orders. And so that business, it's great. It's a great business to be in. And as you can imagine, and I know in the businesses that I've been in the distribution world, the hardware business seems to be declining, and rightfully so, because the cloud business is starting to pick up and people are gravitating to it. When you move into a cloud-based model, we're not looking at the long-term future of the customer. That's not necessarily to say that you're not there to help them grow their business. They surely are. But what's really, really important, and we're going to go into more detail about some of the decision-making process and some of the, how do I estimate cloud and how do I create a cloud solution? We'll get into that a little bit later. But really, it's making sure that you're looking at what the customer currently needs, maybe over the next 90 or 180 days, where their infrastructure lies to support their business today, and then building around that over the coming terms. And so I would suggest that over the term, you're going to have an opportunity to optimize and provide better efficiencies and securities. And there's going to be a lot of project work that'll be done as you guys are working with your customers over time around the infrastructure. One really neat thing for your customer and so I want to make sure I talked about the project work, because one of the neat things about your customer is when they move into a cloud infrastructure, that may be the last migration that the customer does for that application or service. And so they don't have to go through that hardware refresh anymore for that application. So we still have to find ways to help you continue to have project work and adopt to the different services as you work through that relationship with your customer. So I would say that's really the way the business is changing, and you're also gonna wind up talking more along CEO levels and decision makers within the organization, and I think that actually leads me. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes, but I want to be able to get Matt's input as well, because I think the two of us work very well together and give different, a bit of a different input. So Matt.
Yeah. I don't have anything in addition to that, because I know we're going to talk about more of that in detail. So I don't want to go off on any rants. I think you covered, you answered the question as well as to be expected. The biggest difference is just not to approach it the way that we always have before, where we have to anticipate growth and sort of accommodate for that. There's it's as simple as you basically evaluate what their uses are today, and we evaluate a cloud solution for that, and then we anticipate that growth and expansion as part of the service, as part of the agreement with the customer. Just to take a step back and to address the slide that's showing, and to talk just a little more, because again, we don't know the level of familiarity with everybody that's watching. So we want to make sure that there's at least a base level, so that we all understand what we're talking about. So Microsoft Azure. This is something I've never seen anywhere else, but it's something I use on calls all the time. I like to refer to it as the internet's operating system, because I think most people understand the difference between an operating system piece of software and an application that goes on top of it. This is not a direct metaphor. It's clearly not an operating system, the Azure platform, but in a sense, that's what your Azure subscription unlocks for you. You have this now platform to launch from it virtual systems, or complete applications, or storing storage, et cetera, et cetera. Excuse me. So we have a list of some of the most common solutions that Azure can provide. Like I said, virtual machines and hosted networking, backup and DR, things like that. So just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. However, it's a lot. And that list of 7 categories is not even everything. There's a tremendous amount of capability within this platform and most cloud platforms. So the idea is try not to be overwhelmed. That's the best way to approach this business in general, is to focus on specific solutions that you can fill using this tool. And we want to help you develop those out. And that will help you to grow your infrastructure as a service business, to add these services as you go along. So Jason, I got a great question here. First of all, Scott, just to answer your question, there will be a lot of discussion here on Windows Virtual Desktop as well. WVD, for those of you out there, is the next evolution for remote desktop services. It actually can replace RDS services, or RDS, in a lot of cases. So that's something we definitely want to address, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute or two. But Scott also has a really great question too, which is how do you, Jason, accurately qualify who is and is not a good cloud candidate?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question to ask, and Matt, thanks so much for putting me on the hot seat to give the answer. I would say, so So we got a couple more slides coming up, and one of the slides that I'll get into a little bit is kind of like who moved the cheese, or who moved my cheese rather. I'm not going to get into all that right now, but it's amazing over the time that I've been in the business. There's a lot of customers from all different verticals. I would suggest to you that the easiest answer for that is customers that want to adopt Office 365. Bottom line is nobody really wants to make a change unless they're confident, very, very confident that the change they make is going to be secure and going to be safe for their organization. And I think what Microsoft has done around Office 365 is fantastic, because they've really, we now, I think in distribution, we call it like the gateway drug for cloud services, because you can confidently move your infrastructure or your communication and email out there and be able to transact with it, right? You can use it. It's second nature now. I think as cloud is growing more, we are now seeing much more Azure consumption than we've ever seen before from you, our partners, and your customers. So I think it's really to answer your question more directly if your customer is a server hugger, and you know that they love the hardware, it's going to be a harder conversation for that customer to move into the cloud. And I could spend an hour just talking about how much more secure Azure is, how much of a greater benefit. You've got an SMB customer moving into enterprise infrastructure, and they're paying a fair price. I can see. I've set up servers for $15 a month, or $50 a month, right? It's not hugely expensive, and you can also pay for what you use when you need it. So really, it's about the comfort level of the customer in regards to what they feel they want to move and when they want to move it. So there's an acronym called BANT. So you talk about budget, authority, need, and time. Use that acronym to identify where your customer sits in the spectrum of, are they ready to move now, or do you got to keep farming them for a while and keep working them till they get to the point to move, and start picking the ones that are ready to change. I think customers are really starting to get to the point where they're ready to make a change, especially in the current environment. So I think that's a good way to go.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And to summarize that, in my opinion, from a text perspective, everyone. I obviously understand that there are a lot of reluctant customers out there, but I do feel that every single one of them could benefit. Save for the rural customers, or the ones with just genuinely poor internet connection, depending on the solution. That's I want to make that clear. That isn't something I want to graze over. If they don't have secure and stable access to the internet, there's very little you can do when we're talking about remote services. So obviously that's definitely a caveat, but yeah, I would say start small with the customers that are not necessarily directly requesting for a cloud service, whether that is applications hosted or just Office. Start with something small. Get them a backup solution that's remote, that's off-site. Get them a Office 365, as he mentioned, is a great first step into seeing the convenience of having the access to the collaboration with your team and with your organization from any device. That's your home device, your cell phone, or your work device. Obviously, that is really important right now with the current work environment that most of us are dealing with today. One other thing, slightly off topic there, that I want to mention, we've got a couple comments that you might be experiencing some technical issues. We understand, things like the background music wasn't ending and slides aren't showing up. I just want to, anybody who's experiencing any of those things, if you just refresh the On24 experience here, it's been fixing everyone's issues. Yeah. So if that's happening to you, okay, then I think we're good. Let's move on. I was concerned that we would have enough information, but we are doing fine on time.
Yeah.
Okay. So
keep asking the questions too. We'd love to hear your questions. And honestly, if you're thinking of something, if what we're talking about is striking a chord in this presentation, please ask it, because there's a lot of people on this call. And if you're thinking about it, there's probably other people thinking about it too. So, we'd certainly want to be here for you.
Yeah. Again, this is our interactive Solutions Lab webcast. Okay, so so I want to really kind of, before we get into more of the technical aspects and some of the tools and services that we can provide you, that's absolutely what we're going to talk about here. But I do want to address some of the more business concerns, some of the feedback that you might be getting from customers. So Jason, I do respect your thoughts on this more than my own. I would imagine you definitely have a grasp on this better than I do. So I want to definitely pick your brain in terms of what makes an IaaS sale to an organization different from a traditional sale. Like what aspects of the assessment and the quoting and the actual deployment are different, and how would you address that with customers?
Yeah, I think so. It's another great question. We get that absolutely a lot, and we're gonna. There's a bunch more slides, not a ton. We got, I don't know, maybe 15 or 16 slides all in total. What makes it different is it's not transactional in the context of buying a traditional server. It's not just, customer wants to buy, this mouse and it costs $100 and they send a PO for $100 and the transaction's over. I would say the biggest transition for the customer, for the customer, is that it's they could send a purchase order in, and I'm sure everybody that is on this webcast is saying, yes, but I hear you, but my customer wants that solid, price, the solid cost of service. They don't want to pay this variable bill every single month. And I agree with you 100%. And I can tell you that we at D&H are working hard and we need your help as a partner. We've got ways to help maximize your profitability, so that you can, to some degree, manage that. And the tools that we're going to talk about a little bit later are getting much better. So I don't want to go into some spoilers for some future slides, but the market is really starting to address that and making it easier for customers to have more of a solid state bill, so to say, so that it's, they're paying that $500 a month every single month. We can certainly get into that. I think, and Matt brought up a slide here, Who Moved My Cheese? If this book, it's been around for a number of years. I've read it a number of years ago, and as Matt and I were ripping through content, we basically, through Teams, we'll give Teams a plug. The two of us were, going back and forth and building out the content for this, and Who Moved My Cheese came back. And if you look in the resources, if you've never read the book and you don't really want to go out and read it or buy it, in the resources, there's a link to a YouTube video that actually gives a really good animated overview. But basically, things are changing in the economy, especially today. I mean, we're in unprecedented times, never been here before in our lifetime, probably may never be here again. So we've got to react to those changes. And I would say to you, it's about encouraging our customers to make those transitions. I know, I think there was a comment made where in the FAQ or the Q&A where as long as the pain is the same, right, the customer is willing to make the change, or if the pain is less. I would agree to that. I would also say you've got to look at it from a future perspective. And the, maybe you're moving from a CapEx to an OpEx model, right? That's a lot about what cloud is. So those are all changes, and they all need to be addressed. So, and also the other point that I want to make sure I don't forget, try and buy, proof of concept, POC. Ask us about it. If you have a customer and we're not really concerned about the size, maybe it's a doctor's office or a manufacturing company of 20, 25 users. Maybe they want to get into WVD, but they don't know what they don't know about it, and it's change, it's different. Ask us, reach out to Matt, reach out to myself, reach out to cloudtech@dnh.com, give a plug for our address, and we share that box with the teammates that we have. We can help fund a POC. It's all about ROI. So, we want to understand what the customer's or what you're trying to help solve for the customer, and talk to those people. And if the ROI mix works, and 90% of the time it does, we put a couple $100 or $500 or whatever into a POC. it's sticky. It's very much proven. Microsoft will spend a lot of money in POCs versus marketing dollars because the POCs actually transact or turn into real dollars for the customer. So that's another great question. Yeah.
Well, Jason, we're blowing up here, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. We're getting a ton of questions. So with that in mind, I want to go a little off schedule and just address some of these because I do not want to get our interaction part of this, to get too far behind. So let me just address a couple of these questions. The first one, actually, if Dave, if you wouldn't mind following up with your question a little more. Sorry. That's not the one I was thinking of. Dennis, rather, asks, can you address the potential difficulty of getting your data back should circumstances change? If you wouldn't mind, just follow that up with a little more specificity, as far as what you mean, as far as circumstances changing, because obviously that would adjust our answer. There's also, I got a couple of comments in here, more comments, less questions, about how it was the last time that I assume they mean an IaaS solution was oh my God, I can't talk, was attempted to be set up. It was very difficult a few years ago. So real briefly, I would like to address that. We agree. And I don't know if you're referring to the actual technical layout and setup in terms of the actual vendor and their portals, or with D&H. But I can tell you, both of them have been vastly improved over the last 3 to 5 years. Specifically with D&H, for those of you out there who have not experienced our latest marketplace, our cloud marketplace, I really could not encourage you enough to try it today. It's completely free. We'll get you signed up, and you can start attaching accounts and things like that. It is a all-encompassing portal allowing you to manage not only your customers, but in a reality, you can use it as an extension of your organization. You can custom brand our marketplace to such a degree that you could use it like it was an extension to your website, and have your customers order their software directly from it. Obviously, these are just options to you, but ultimately it does a great job at helping you manage what is otherwise a pretty difficult to manage solution. What were you going to say, Jason?
Oh, nothing. I'm actually talking with the guys. It's just saying there's a lot of good stuff. I would also, so I will add into your commentary, the vendors, and especially Microsoft, if you pay attention to some of the things that they're doing, and you're paying attention to the news, and you're paying attention to, I read a lot of the blogs. I use an aggregator tool. I'm not going to tell you. I'll tell you offline if you, because we don't endorse it, but we don't sell it through here. But I use an aggregator tool, and I try and stay on top of the news. And Microsoft is moving incredibly fast. So things that you couldn't have done, as Matt talked to 3 years ago, you could certainly do now. And the ability to deliver services, oh man, it's like it's gotten so much easier, and there's so many solutions. We're going to talk about them a little bit later in our presentation that can actually help you. Like Nerdio is a fantastic solution to help maximize your time in deploying a solution, so that it doesn't take you, hours and hours and hours. You can actually deploy a solution, and or they actually do the deployment for you. Sure, there's a cost involved in it, but we're going to get into that later. So there's questions that we've got. We've also got to keep rolling through the presentation to some degree. So I'll flip it back to Matt.
Okay. I got a number of questions in here referring to Windows Virtual Desktop, which is Microsoft's ultimate replacement for RDP. So for any of you out there who are curious, we do actually, I did a total webcast on this, I don't know, 6 months or so ago. So that is available to you. It'll go into much more in-depth information than we're going to go through today. But just keep in mind, it is a cloud hosted, it's hosted in Azure, virtual desktop experience, but it is vastly superior to RDP for a number of reasons. I won't go into all of them. some of them off the top of my head is, first of all, it's a Windows 10 native operating system. So it's no longer an emulated desktop solution running on a server. It's now just Windows 10. It's actually the only version of Windows 10 that is available on the market that will allow multiple users to connect to it simultaneously. It's something exclusive to Azure. And that also means that it's the only VDI solution you can use today where it supports Office 365 Pro Plus natively. So it's a great solution for those existing RDS customers that you want to move up to the cloud. We can absolutely go into that. We're going to go in a little bit more detail here in a slide, but I just wanted to address that first. I got a great question here about what is the best way to start learning. This customer said they started with a free subscription, which kudos to that. For those of you curious, if you were to go to azure.com right now and use whatever Microsoft account you currently have or create a new one, Microsoft gives you $100 to play with right now. Now, don't do anything that would be like ready for production or something that you'd want to move to production. There are ways of migrating that via templates to your production subscription, but it's a little difficult to migrate resources from one subscription to another, or at least it's time consuming. So this is more or less just to get your hands dirty, get out there and play with Azure. On top of that, you know what? We're going to jump around these slides like crazy, Jason. I don't think we should stick to any structure when we're addressing so many questions, but I definitely want to point out that Jason and I are currently building out a series of Azure tutorial videos. Now, I did a handful of these years ago. They are so out of date and incomplete for that matter. And it's something that I have been wanting to do for years now, but just haven't had the bandwidth. And I'm very pleased to say that we do now. And so we're going to come out with this series. We don't have a date for the first video, but it'll be soon. And what it will address is, I hope, all of your initial concerns here, including one of the other questions that I just got here, which is, how do you buy Azure from D&H? Well, we'll definitely address that. Conceptually, so you're all aware, the purchasing of Azure is really just registering an Azure subscription and attaching it to a Microsoft tenant. So this is Microsoft tenant can be, let's say, an existing customer of yours with an Office 365 subscription. They already have a tenant, a Microsoft account. That account represents not only their Azure Active Directory, so that user list that issues out all those Office subscriptions can be used as just a standard directory that you would use in your infrastructure. But you can also attach additional subscriptions to it, such as an Azure subscription. So like for the specifics on how to do that, give us a ring, shoot cloudtech@dnh.com an email. But as I said, that will absolutely be one of the very first email or videos that we have when the video series launches here, probably in the next month, less than a month at this point. Okay, so cool. We got some poll results and excellent. Okay, so that's kind of what I was anticipating. Was more than half of our viewers are not they don't have a compensation practice change in mind. Okay, so sorry, this was the first poll that I shot out. Yeah, Jason, you want to? Yeah, because obviously this is something that does need to be addressed if you're serious about this. If you want to say something, yeah.
Yeah, so absolutely. So I'll just ask you guys, right? Especially a lot of you are owners, or business decision makers. Your salespeople are coin operated. Bottom line, right? If they're selling hardware, and I've definitely talked with many partners where sales reps are going out selling $100,000 deals, $1 million deals, taking home some pretty big paychecks because my understanding is for the most part, the partners sell or compensate based on GP. The profits that the company makes. And so that's hard. That's a tough pill to swallow. I can tell you that D&H is certainly aware that there's compensation, and I'd be confident to say that we're working on ways to help business owners around the compensation model. One of the things that I've learned that has worked well is you may decide to pay your sales rep in perpetuity, right? So if they sell a cloud solution, they too can build a business around an annuity business. Really, I was trying to think of the word. They can build their own annuity business within your business, and you could pay them on GP dollars over in perpetuity. Some partners will decide to pay 90 days, and they'll pay the the total sell. So, for example, if you sold I don't know, an Azure solution at $1,000, maybe for the next 90 days, you're paying the sales rep $1,000 a month so it's $3,000 worth of, commission. Those are things that we can certainly, so we have business development people on our team that are skilled to be able to sit down with you and try and help understand how best you can put that model into play. And what makes best sense for you and your business, and we certainly love to. That's an opportunity the D&H team would love to have. Also, finally, some partners have literally said, "Okay, I've got my traditional sales reps, and I'm going to let them sell that way, but I'll hire in new sales reps, maybe out of college, looking for a new job, and I'm just going to compensate them completely different to what the VAR side of the business is doing or the hardware side of the business is doing." And that actually seems to work out well. You just have kind of this two-team thing, and maybe pay the hardware people a spiff for finding an opportunity, or giving them some kind of reward for bringing in a cloud seller. That could work.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and continue with our customer questions. Jason, if you just want to try to find a slide that sort of associates to what we're about to talk about. I don't know. That's the best way to take this.
Sure.
Because I definitely think that the bigger value that our customers are going to get from this is if we answer their questions directly. Okay, so I can take this one. The next question we have here is, how long does it take to create a virtual desktop and add desktops to the account? I assume this question is referring to Windows Virtual Desktop. So again, I was just informed that we added our WVD webcast to the resources for this webcast. So you should find a link to it there. So check that out. But in the meantime, WVD is the next evolution of RDP. So very, very summarized version of what we're talking about. With remote desktop services, it would emulate a desktop session using a number of different application servers, or rather the individual servers that you would have to deploy would each be running a particular role for authentication, user routing, and security aspects like gateways, servers, and things like that. And then ultimately, it would put you into a session host, or a session broker, I should say, in the traditional one. And it would create an emulated version of a desktop that the customer would interact with. That desktop was based off of an image. So it had only certain software and access to certain things that were based on that image, and it would reset every time that a customer would connect to it. This is your traditional RDP. That same circumstance, the circumstances as far as pooled resources, resetting environment, etc., absolutely can be recreated in WVD, and I would argue at for quite a lot less money. The concept here is Windows Virtual Desktop takes the place of the RDP application servers. So all of the stuff that needed to be in place, which usually was, multiple virtual machines at least, let alone probably more hardware, sure. You would find yourself deploying all these different things. That is all now included in the WVD service, which I am pleased to say is free. So Windows Virtual Desktop, the service itself, which again does the configuration and the connection of users to their sessions, is 100% free. There are two requirements that your customer pays for. They need a Windows 10 Enterprise license. If you don't mind, Jason, go back one slide. In the last slide there that shows you all the different versions of Windows or Microsoft 365 that apply or that can work towards that licensing. The one exception to the Windows 10 Enterprise requirement is that Microsoft 365 Business. So I absolutely want to emphasize that to you guys. I'll go on that for a long time, so I won't talk about it in depth right now. But M365 Business is growing and growing and growing in terms of capability, and Microsoft has not adjusted their price at all. Its biggest limitation at this time, I would say, is user count. It has a user limit of 300, but if you have any accounts that are under that, let's talk about M365 Business and how that can transform your customer's IT environment. But Windows Virtual Desktop requires that license per user for their desktop license, as well as you pay for the consumption on just the session host that's hosting that virtual environment. So to answer your question, how long does it take to create a virtual desktop and add desktops to that account? Configuration can take an hour or 10 hours, depending on the amount of time that you want to put into it, depending on the complexity of those images, and what have you. But the actual deployment is very, very simple. It's done in a virtual machine in Azure, and is very quick, I should say, not necessarily simple. The instructions are straightforward, and it's something that we can guide you through. Plus, I have prepared a playbook. So not only is this a look at WVD from a business perspective, but it'll also give you step-by-step instructions on how to deploy it. But one better than that, I should say, for those of you out there who are new at this, we are very, very, very pleased to be partnered with Nerdio. So Nerdio is an organization you may or may not be familiar with, and they have a number of, essentially they are IaaS and desktop as a service deployment tools. It's a platform that you will become intimately familiar with that you can use for a variety of things. I would say the majority and what its biggest strengths is it has an excellent cost estimator. I saw another question come over about what's the best way to estimate these prices. When it comes to Azure, when it comes to cloud computing in general, since everything is based on consumption for the most part, Office 365 and the other sort of per seat licenses to the side, it's going to be your best estimate. And there are lots of tools to help you with those. First, you have to get the best assessment that you can of their current environment. That's the only way you can really anticipate what their needs are going to be once you have it deployed. And then as far as what those deployment costs will be, there are additional cost estimators for that. There's one hosted by Microsoft called the Pricing Calculator, which give me a call. We can go through that. And then, as I mentioned, Nerdio has one as well, which is very, very, very valuable because not only does it give sizing recommendations for each of the systems themselves that you'll be deploying, but then it breaks that information down for you in a really easy to understand per seat basis, and it's something that you can manipulate and then provide directly to your customer. So hopefully I didn't confuse anybody with my rant. I know there's a lot of information when it comes to WVD. I only graze the surface, and I the best I could say is shoot cloudtech@dnh.com an email, schedule something with Jason and I, and have us answer your questions directly. It's probably going to be the best way, to get you off the ground. Anything to add to that, Jason, before I move on? Oh my goodness, it's already 2:43.
Yeah, I would just, I've been talking with the guys in the background. I'm trying to answer some of the questions. You guys, tons of great questions. I'm blown away by how many Q&A questions we have. If everybody that's on the line or watching the presentation, I've been told by the guys that are producing this presentation that we've got till 3:15 actually to go. So we got another half an hour. So let's just keep rolling through.
Okay.
Lots and lots of great questions. Go ahead.
So I got a question here of what sort of training solutions for design and support staff do we offer? Jason, do you want to, if you want to answer that, and I'll add anything that I can think of.
Training solutions that we offer?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I know off the top of my head that Matt and I certainly can do training for your sales teams or your technical teams. We're certainly not in a position to help your technical teams get to certification, but we can certainly point you in the right direction. There's lots of great material out there. I actually am going through to get my new certifications for Azure and deployment certification. There was a question earlier around getting educated. And I thought I sent the answer out to everybody. I'm not sure if you got it or not, so I'm just going to run through it real quick. I know a lot of people that aren't technically knowledgeable, like they don't have a technical background, but have gotten into the Azure business and were interested in getting educated. And so they've taken the AZ900 fundamentals training that Microsoft put out on their website. I'm pretty sure if you just type AZ900 in your browser, it's going to pop up. There's hours and hours of content, video content that you can take and then go and get your AZ900 certification through Microsoft. That's another great way to get educated. I would encourage anybody that, whether it's your sellers, certainly technical people, it's the AZ900 is a great foundational training. It's not going to get deep into the weeds around, feeds and speeds and IOPS and all that stuff, but it's going to let you really understand how Microsoft Azure operates for our customers. Matt, you probably have some additional talking points.
Yeah, I was just thinking of a couple. One, there's the Microsoft University. These are free trainings. You're not going to get certified from them, but take a look at the Microsoft University. They have a lot of Azure trainings that are centered around for sales staff as well, so you can use those. And then finally, if you are looking for certifications, please reach out to us. We are affiliated with New Horizons Training Center, and those guys are great. I've been to several of their in-class as well as remote trainings, and it's top-notch training, and we can talk to them about bundle deals or discounts based off of group trainings and things like that. We've done that in the past.
Yeah, so I know you want to get to the Q&A, and that's certainly great content. I think there's at least 2 slides that I think we'd be remiss at least not to go over them, and we can certainly bring back. Huh?
I'm sorry, I just said please do.
Oh, okay, great. So, and I'm going to run with this one because this is my I think Matt also would experience this a lot. And I pointed out, you're doing it all wrong, and you're not doing it all wrong, but there is a difference in how you quote. Let me change that. Estimate cloud services around Azure versus how you do it on premises, and time again, you guys are great at bringing in opportunities, and you do it the way you traditionally have done it, right? Traditionally, you sell the hardware and then you put the applications in the hardware. In cloud, we don't care about the hardware. It's great. I'm glad you have your customer has this really great HP, IBM, Lenovo server. You're not going to use it anymore in cloud. In cloud, it's all about the application. It's all about what the application requirements are. And my favorite example that I like to use, so there's a number of ways to getting to the application requirements and right sizing a server in Azure. But I would say manually, and if you got some gray hair like I do, and you've been around, 20 years ago when a customer called you up and said, hey, there's this new version of SLED software that I want to install on my server, the conversation usually was, let me get the CD or the DVD, flip it over, see the minimum system requirements. And then it was, hey, Mr. Customer, you got to upgrade your server because your server's not going to run this application as it is today. The software developers made it better. Everything goes in circles, right? Comes around, goes around. In my opinion, when you want to move a customer from a physical server to Azure, you really want to get the minimum system requirements that application is going to use to run, and then imply your professional experience to say, well, I know, QuickBooks, the new version of QuickBooks needs 2-core 8 gigs of RAM to run. That's great. But I also know that 8 people in the office are going to use it 8 hours a day, right? So a 2-core machine isn't going to be that effective. I'm probably going to need a 4-core 16 gig machine to operate. And then that in a manual way would be a better way to get the customer right sized. Number one. Number two, there's tools around, and I'm going to flip over here. So we got the toolbox. So Microsoft has Microsoft assessment and planning. Yeah, assessment and planning tools that you can take advantage of, that you can run between either the Maps tool and or Azure Migrate, which is, you get access to Azure Migrate when you provision a tenant through D&H, right? And we're going to make sure if you want to provision a tenant for your customer, again, $0 doesn't cost you a dime to provision a tenant to a customer. It only costs you money when you actually deploy a server. So when you get that tenant set up, you get access to the Azure Migration tool, and you can run that tool on your customer's environment, and it'll do a lot of data collecting and analysis. And I believe it gives you, I actually haven't seen the output of the tool yet, but it gives you information in regards to licensing the customer has on-prem, what the servers should look like in Azure. And then it'll give you a really good foundation for you to be able to put those services and give your customer that estimated price that is more practical around a solid monthly payment than not. Outside of that, I'm going to make one more comment and then I'll flip it back over to Matt. Deployment assistance. So the way I look at it is, if you're pretty smart and you kind of understand the Azure infrastructure and you want to go at it yourself, please do. I'm not going to stop you. If you aren't feeling as skilled about it, but you've got some experience with it and you need some help, in my opinion, Nerdio is a great tool. They'll do a lot of the deployment for you. They basically can give you an estimate. You can do your WVD setup in there, and you literally can hit deploy, and I think it takes 4 or 5 hours, and it'll deploy through API and PowerShell the way they've set it all up, and your infrastructure will be set up. If you are at a point maybe that you have customers who want to get to Azure but have little or no comfort around the tools, you can engage a company that we work with called Ready Networks. Everything's under NDA. They're not going to go chase your customer. They're here. They do a lot of business with D&H, and they're very much trusted. And they will do soup to nuts, from the assessment to the setting up the infrastructure to the migration, and basically you just resell their services with a profit. So there's a couple of 3 different ways that you can go at it. We're also making training. We're going to do a Azure in 5-minute video on the cost estimator tool on Microsoft, so you guys can get a really good understanding how it works. And by all means, you are not alone. If you are anywhere in your journey, whether you need help to put together an estimate, whether you need help to talk to a customer, if you need help to do anything, Matt and I are here to help you. Certainly happy to do. All you need to do is ask, really. And again, cloud tech at D&H gets it to our tech team, and one of us will reach out and be able to make sure that you're moving forward. And we'd love to help you. Just buy your Azure business through D&H.
So that was good. No, that's a great segue. I think, so I have a number of announcements that at some point or another I will get to, but one that I think is critical, and it's definitely applicable to what you were just talking about, is we are currently running a promotion that I think everybody here could benefit from. We are currently running an Azure assessment promotion that started, I think, on the 15th. Yeah, so yesterday. And it's running until the end of June. The idea is for qualified partners, they'll be eligible for up to 3 hours, which is roughly a $600 value of assessment or advisory from Ready Networks for free. So this, I think this would really address the proof of concept that we were referring to before, that Jason was mentioning. Actually, Jason, I got a question about the POC in this context, what exactly we were referring to. So I'll answer that just briefly, and Jason, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I mean, really what we're referring to is, let's say you have QuickBooks, just off the top of my head, and that has traditionally been running on a server. QuickBooks has an Azure client. So are we going to run the QuickBooks hosted in Azure, or are you going to run QuickBooks on a virtual machine in Azure, you have options available to you that are going to have variable costs and performances. So the idea of a proof of concept is for relatively free, you would be able to make this decision, deploy this application, and evaluate its performance before you actually deploy it in production. Is that how you would describe it, Jason?
Yeah, so I would agree with that, and I will share with you. So a real example, not to say that Matt's wasn't a real example, but one that I'm working on right now, rather. So I have a partner that came to me that wants to deploy Windows Virtual Desktop for their end customer. The initial thought from the partner was, if I purchase an action pack through my Microsoft Partner Network relationship, I think it's about $400 or $500. I'll get $100 a month in Azure available consumption. So basically, Microsoft will give you your own tenant, and you get up to $100 every month to spend against learning how to use Azure. And I think a lot of partners may take that $100 because it's free, and you'll set up you'll set up an environment really for your customer to do a POC on it and see it. The challenge with that is if the customer likes what they have, all the effort and energy that you put into setting that up was for naught, in the context of you have to tear it down, you have to get a subscription from D&H, and you have to rebuild what the customer liked. Now they decided to move forward into production. So I pitched to the partner that wants to do the 40 desktops. I said, don't do that route. Let's set up a tenant. We'll go through the D&H website. We'll set up a tenant. We'll do the POC in that tenant and allow, if you want, whatever, 3, 4, or 5 users to actually use it every single day, maybe for a week. We're going to be very sensitive to making sure things are turned on and turned off and keeping costs low. Let's do that. And then if the customer says yes, then all the effort that we made to deploy it has been, put to good use, because then you can just continue to build it out. And the customer continue to move forward. We're going to, you'll get funding for whatever the agreed upon dollar value is. And that includes your engineering time, in my opinion, to, if you're going to stand it up. And then you just turn it into production. So I think that's a really good way to go around it. We're still working through some of the kinks. I can't tell you that every single opportunity you bring forward will be 100% approved. But I would, certainly encourage you, if you believe you've got a customer that would, if they could try and buy, Matt and I will make the argument to go and get some funding for it. Because honestly, the customer, 90% of customers, 85% of customers that try and buy, and they see that it does work as well as we think it will, they stick with it and continue to grow their business.
Nice. Okay, so I'm just looking at our time. We have roughly 15 minutes, and I still have a lot of announcements to get to. First of all, thank you. I'm not going to spend any more time saying thank you because we are limited to it. But man, you guys have been awesome. We were unsure of what the overall interaction would be, and I'm blown away. So let me just try to group some of these questions together and answer them as best as I can. I have a number of questions here asking about markup, margin, how much money can I make, et cetera, et cetera. So let's address that. First of all, building a cloud practice, it's a shift. It's a shift in dynamic in terms of compensation, as we mentioned, for your sales staff, for yourself, and then how you actually market this to your customer. So there's going to be a lot of changes, and so there's no easy answer to how much do you make on Azure subscriptions, because the reality is, what you should be focusing on is it's a solutions-driven business. As it always has been, but no more so than now, where you have the ability to not only cloud business is extremely sticky. Once you have a customer signed up and once you have a service deployed for them, it's difficult for them to go anywhere else, not to, just put it any other way. And so the reality is we like to suggest bundling several services together, including your own unique services, the things that only your organization can offer. And therefore, the pricing that you deliver to your customer is not always going to be a quote with line items and a price associated with them. What we often recommend is you put something that just says hardware and overall cost for hardware if there's hardware involved, and cloud services and so on. Simplify it and create a complete subscription. Integrate yourself into your customer's operating budget. Make sure that they understand that the IT costs that they have are not something that they only have to worry about every few years when their server starts to slow down, that this is something that's integral into their business and how their employees function. And so that it should be represented that way within the budget as well. There's obviously a lot more information when it comes to margin and making money in this business. And I would say that no one can explain it better in this industry right now than our boss, Jason Bystrak. And Jason has done a number of excellent building out a cloud business videos that we have posted available in our Solutions Lab, in the cloud section of our website, as well as the D&H YouTube page. They're all available there. So I would recommend starting there, and then any questions that you might have, address them to us, and we'll assist you with those sort of specifics. Talking is difficult today. Okay. All right, I got two questions here about optimizing IaaS spend. This is a very, very, very common request and concern when it comes to infrastructure, or for that matter, everything as a service ultimately can be optimized. That's so many rabbit holes I'm opening up here. There's a lot of as a service programs. The most common ones you're going to hear about it: software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. You will also hear desktop as a service. That's a whole separate thing we're not going to talk about right now. But the idea is all three of those things can be hosted on a platform like Azure. Software, platform, and infrastructure can all be hosted in Azure. And so they all have the same sort of base mentality or base characteristic, that is, you can adjust them and scale these services depending on their needs. So as we've mentioned many times, the assessment is a very important step in order to do your best in that initial estimate as to what resources are going to be required for these solutions. But a month or two after this stuff, a couple of weeks after this stuff is deployed, you may find that there was potentially over or under provisioning. You may notice that the resources that were deployed are not optimized. And so there are a lot of tools available for IaaS and other sorts of platform optimization. We partner with an organization called Cloud Checker. They're probably one of the biggest right now in terms of optimizing, monitoring, and managing an infrastructure like this. And what it essentially does is it aggregates all of your subscription data, all of your customer subscription data, and basically analyzes it with two things in mind: cost optimization, and then also a number of best practice suggestions. And these can be anything from cost savings to performance, increases to just, general best practices that I can't think of right now. So we recommend Cloud Checker in that regard. That said, there are a lot of free cost optimization tools that Microsoft makes available to you, and they are opening up new ones. For example, Azure Lighthouse, which came out here, 3, 4, 5 months ago, which I will go down right now. So if you have any questions about this stuff, reach out to us directly. We would like to talk to you about it, but I just don't have the time to talk about it right now. Jason, any thoughts on what I just said while I look at more questions?
No, you're doing a great job. I also want to make sure. So I think we probably got another 8 minutes, 7 minutes, and then we probably want to save 4 minutes or so for the getting started, things that partners should do that we put together. I think that would be really beneficial for our listeners.
All right, that's a good point. All right, so apologies to everyone. You guys have been absolutely phenomenal. The number of questions we have is just Too much. It looks like we're not going to be able to answer them all. Let me some easy questions here. I got some confusion around RDS in my explanation earlier. I assume the question is that RDS no longer exists. I don't want to make that claim at all. That's not the case. So remote desktop services is something that comes for free in Windows Server Standard and above. So it'll be around. Windows Server Standard 2019 is the current version of server, but there will be a 21 or 22 or something like that. And it very, very likely will have RDS as well. Who knows? It might be a newer version of it. And because every single version of server as they have come out, they have simplified the requirements for RDS. So they could implement, a WVD like hosted service in the next version of server. I'm speculating, but the point is that RDS still exists. Not only does RDS still exist, if you have any customers that are running RDS currently, you can migrate those servers to Azure and just have them hosted in a remote location. Let's say that their systems are old. Let's say they're running Windows Server 2008 R2. That's something important. You can do a direct lift and shift of those systems, host them in Azure, and you can continue to use those legacy out of support operating systems with free extended support upgrades that are available only when you host these systems in Azure. So make sure that's clear.
Okay. So Matt,
Jason, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say I got some feedback from Dave on our production team saying we actually have to have this wrapped up by 1:15. If we're 1:15 in 1 second, then we'll get cut off.
Okay.
So let's get into the. We'll push out this one here, getting started. I think you and I will have enough to talk about through this for the next few minutes. So so there's a business plan. So we're building tools, guys. We're really excited to help you. Our business is growing. For those of you that are on the webcast that have already transacted Azure, thank you. I mean, our business is growing and is growing very strongly around Microsoft Azure. So we're really here to support you. Also, there was a few questions around UI being able to set up, I believe it's like private branding for you and your customers. Our platform that we use is absolutely fantastic. Please reach out to cloudtech@dnh.com with any questions around branding. We've only talked really about Microsoft Azure. I sent in the team chat a link to our website around cloud, D&H Cloud. If you start that top to bottom, you'll see all the vendors that we manage and take care of, who to reach out to depending on where you are around the country, and all bunch of different services. So a business plan, real quick, I want to share with you guys. We have created a business planning document. I hope you guys are able to see my screen. This planning document it's a book, and you can actually, if you want to download it off the resources page, you can do that right here in the presentation, and you can follow along. But really what it is about is understanding what your business is. I've talked with many partners over the years that you may have a really good business and a good planning strategy around your business, but you may not necessarily look at infrastructure in the ability to do some planning. So we want to help you do that, and we want to partner with you to make sure that we hold each other accountable to grow a really good business. Matt and I both recognize that probably 80 to 90% of your time is not selling cloud infrastructure. So and we talk about who moved the G's. We need to make that more part of your time. So this deck this workbook is really there to help understanding who your account, how many people do you have, what verticals do you serve, what training. So we want to make sure that you get sales training, technical training. We've listed some down here. The AZ 900 is actually, there's a link to it right here. So if you want to go out and get that done, it may even be something that you mandate for your sales teams to go and get done on their own time. It's very much self-paced, so it doesn't have to be done within a couple hours. Solution propensity. So, what solutions do you have, or what solutions are you going to look forward to delivering as you move into these cloud services? And again, we've got lots from RMM, PSA tools, third-party tools, lots of tools on our site. Is it a market gap for your customers? If you move down here, you want to get into big data, storage management, VDI, or Windows Virtual Desktop. You're going to get into some of the other services like blockchain, security, app web development, and find a way to get your own IP, right? It would be so great if we could all get our own IP around Azure infrastructure and be able to drive our own solutions, because then you're going to make more money. You're going to be able to set your own margin and markup. Again, really here, who's your go-to-market team? Who's your technical team? Who are the people that are going to help you drive your cloud services forward? Because the reality is, if you don't start making moves, I've talked with many partners today that are like really excited about doing cloud, and then we'll follow up in 90 days or something, and it really hasn't gone very far because other business gets in the way. So let's hold each other accountable to make this happen. And then we've even got here a little bit of a financial setup. So if you want to actually see if I'm selling services, if I got customers coming in, if I add 2 or 3 customers a month, how is that going to impact my bottom line, right? This is what this spreadsheet's about. And then I move this out. We've got some marketing here. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I gotta cut you off. We're just getting really, really close to time. I gotta wrap everything up.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. So thank you, Jason. We appreciate it. There's an awful lot there, and reach out to Jason. He's an expert at this, who can kind of help walk you through that guy or that spreadsheet and how to work with your customer with it. Okay, so again, we clearly didn't cover everything that we had intended to. We clearly didn't cover every question that was asked, but we did our best. So this was our first attempt at a live webcast, and this is what you got. Anyway, so I wanted to end this whole thing off here with just a handful of announcements. There's a lot of resources that are available to you right now in the resources tab for this. For example, we have that worksheet that Jason was just referring to available there. You can take a look at it yourself. Give Jason a call, and he can talk your ear off more about it. We also have 2 different mini sites surrounding our cloud business. We have our D&H Cloud mini site, as well as on our Microsoft mini site. There's an entire cloud section, has a lot of really good information. We recommend you go to that. You just go to dnh.com, and it's under one of the tabs at the top. It's been 2 weeks already. 2 weeks ago, we did our was going to be our West Coast show. Ended up being a live online broadcast that we did called the D&H Threadcast. Jason and I did about a 90-minute presentation with Jason Bystrak, our boss, about a lot of stuff. And we really encourage you guys to check that out as well if you hadn't previously. We also have our partner services marketing tools. So this is huge. We didn't really get into marketing much, but obviously marketing is going to be part of your businesses if you're making this dive into cloud in general. And so we want to provide you with as many tools as available. So if you're unfamiliar with our partner services section here at D&H, they're basically a leg of our marketing group that helps develop resources and marketing toolkits that you can custom brand and use for your own personal marketing. And we have a number of designed around cloud. Oh, shoot. Okay. Well, then I will wrap this up as fast as I can. Speaking of that, we also have Azure Partner Services Toolkit, which is something specific to Azure and around marketing. Finally, we have this webcast will be posted on demand. So if you missed anything, it'll be available very, very soon. Any questions, contact solutionslab@dnh.com, cloudtech@dnh.com, or cloudsolutions@dnh.com. And finally, on April 21, at 2 p.m., we're going to have our next webcast hosted by Chris Phillips, Rhonda Hebert, and Keith Quinlan. They're going to talk about D&H's efforts with esports, which is substantial. And I've been in all those meetings. They have a lot to talk about on those as well. So be sure to check that out as well. And then finally, check out our Azure assessment promo, people, please. I'm telling you, you will you will benefit from this. If you don't know anything about it, it gives you 3 free hours to talk an expert's ear off while they are, showing you a either live or POC development of what you're trying to do. So absolutely take advantage of that. Reach out to us if you want to know more. And according to my ticker here, I have about 30 seconds. So with that, I want to say thank you so much, everyone, for your participation and for attending. I want to thank Jason for being my cohort and partner in crime here. And thank you very much. We will see you next time.
Thank you.